All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Badass Clinician Podcast. It is I, Natty, with my friend Chestin. Today, we're just going to talk about how you can grow and scale your business. If we were to partner with you, here's what we do in your business to actually help you grow from just a solo practitioner all the way to clinic manager and ultimately to a CEO that can actually generate some money for your family to create more job opportunity for people and actually help more patient and save this profession, especially in healthcare. So this is why we like to do this. And if you guys are new to the show, welcome. Please subscribe, share to this to as many people as possible because we want to grow this community, right? Chestin, how do you feel, man?
Good, man. Good. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, the weather's been good, so I'm ready. I've been kind of amped up, and today I want to just get started almost immediately talking about raising the standard and rising above the low standard in healthcare right now because it's extremely low. And the one takeaway I want you guys to have from this podcast after you listen to it is that it's easy based on where the standards are at right now in traditional healthcare. And if you're a performance therapist, you want to work with high-level athletes, and you're listening to this, you're a step ahead of a lot of people. So I congratulate you from just listening to this podcast. And now we're gonna go over the different things that we do here in Myokinetics and how, Chestin and I have implemented so many little things that can actually help you, build your brand, stand out among all these other clinics that's around you. And I mean, Chestin, I remember telling you when we first met, of like within 5 mile radius, we have 10 to 15 clinics around us, right?
Yep.
I mean, in New Jersey, we are so saturated with PT clinics, right? We have hospital system. We also have private equity owned clinics that's surrounding us. You pretty much can't step outside New Jersey, kick a rock without hitting a PT clinic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The market is definitely saturated, and the cool part is nowadays, if you can differentiate yourself just a little bit, you're going to stand out from the crowd. And I think that's what we all want is, we all want that brand awareness. We all want that factor that causes people to come to us. And truth be told, it's really not that hard nowadays because there is so much noise, but so much of it is just kind of empty calories, so to speak. Where there's not a lot that kind of differentiates, clinic A from clinic B. And so if you just do just a few things and do them really well, you're going to stand out and have massive success.
Yeah. And I love what you just said there, man, because you want to get to the essential things that actually help you move the needle in your business. And as the needle in your business move, that's when you ascend up to different, identity ladder. That's what we talk about, right? Like that's how you grow from a solo practitioner to building, multiple location, 7 figures clinic. It's just all about doing these little things really, really well. It's kind of like, when we have patients coming in and they want to take supplement, they want to do X, Y, and Z, but they're not sleeping, right? They're not staying hydrated. They're not having adequate protein intake, right? So like do these things first before you think about all these other things.
Absolutely.
And
everybody wants the silver bullet. Everybody wants the quick fix, the pill they can take, the hack, so to speak, that they can do. But in reality, it just comes down to just doing the basics and just doing them consistently and doing them well.
Yeah, again, we're both big fan of Alex and Leah Mosey, and I mean, I follow what he said. It was like, there's no silver bullet, 100 golden BBs, right? And that's a huge thing because, again, going back, you can't turn on Instagram or Facebook without seeing ads on all these silver bullet things where like other agencies are offering. And I have, fell victim to all those things before. Again, you want to run your business full time as a CEO, not a part-time CEO and have someone else run it, right? Yeah. And it's all about taking ownership. So if you're listening to this, have that ability to put on the CEO hat and be a true CEO, right? CEO doesn't mean just because you have a CEO on your like email signature doesn't mean you are one.
Yeah.
Right.
And it really comes down to it really comes down, it's not that you have to do all the work. In fact, you shouldn't be doing all the work, but you still need to know what those critical drivers are, what those levers you can pull that are going to have the most impact. And again, a lot of times it comes down to just doing very basic things that any business should be doing, but most don't.
Yeah. And if you look at any CEO of any big company, they know the job title, the responsibility, the outcome of each role, because then they can have an oversight on what's going on, right? Because in the past, what I used to do is I would just hire tons of people, say, hey, this is your job. And then I say, oh, you have experience with that? Okay, go do that. And I just left them alone.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't want to come on as micromanaging. But in reality, what I was doing is I was just hiring people to do stuff that they know what to do based on their previous experience, which is not up to my standard, right? So the role of the CEO to understand what is the job, right? What's the standard and what's the outcome? And if the outcome doesn't match, then you have to look at, did I train them enough? Did I set the high standard, or was the standard impossible to meet, or was it too low?
Yep.
And what we're trying to do now at Model Connects is that we want to grade people based on the action and the outcome, right? Because that's taking all the emotion out of the equation. Like, I like everyone that I work with every single day, but if the action and the outcome is not aligned with how it's going to grow the business, then it's a different conversation, right? I like everyone on a personal level, but from a business end, there's things that we can improve upon.
Yep.
So, anyway, so now that I'm on a roll here. So I want to talk about things that we actually did this past few weeks that has been an incredible confidence building for my team, especially in the front end, right? We're talking about, assessing the standard of where we are right now in healthcare. So, you know that we just ended up partnering up with HSS. We're part of their rehabilitation network membership. So that's a huge, success for us, because it took us 8 months to get to that point. Since then, the bar has never been higher every single day. So because of that, I want to find out what other people are doing within the clinic around my area, right? So when I was on my coaching call with some coaching clients I have, both in PT and also in fitness, I said, hey, at this point, how do you think your phone system are being handled? You're taking the phone call, you're doing good intake. They're like, yeah. I was like, do you feel confident in that? They're like, no. I was like, okay, how do I get you more confident? They're like, I don't know. I said, okay, you know what you need to do? You need to start calling your competitor to see how they're answering the phone. What are they doing? If you were an ideal patient calling that clinic, how they're handling it, right? And I got this from Patrick Best Davids, where he was mentioning, like, in his early career before he started doing his own insurance agency, he used to work at Bally's Total Fitness. And he was a sales rep for Bally. What he did was he was actually pretending to call Planet Fitness, New York Sport Club, Equinox, all these gyms, pretend to be someone who's interested in that. And then he would find out all the information. And the coolest thing that he did was he was like, hey, he pretended to be that customer, like, hey, I'm thinking about joining Bally's. What do you think about those guys? And then the sales rep at the other place would be like, well, we go to Bally's, here's the negative thing. Boom, boom, boom. So we was right down the note. I was like, okay, based on this negative thing, what do you guys have that's better than Bally's that they didn't have? And they say, well, compared to Bally's, we have this, right? So we then take notes on that. So if a new prospect call DBD, he would say, I know you're shopping for the gym, right? If you call me at Sport Club, I can guarantee you with full certainty that they're going to say that we don't have X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to tell you right now, is untrue, because we have this, and this. They're also going to try to sell you on this, and this. And he was going to tell them, like, here's why it wouldn't work. Right? So he was able to overcome objection by understanding what other people are doing. So I encourage my coaching clients, like, hey, go do the same thing. Take some notes and see what's going on. Right? They came back, they're like, oh my God, man, I cannot believe the bar is so low. So I'm like, great. So now we have a new front desk that's been with us for 6 months. She needs a little bit more confidence. So I say, hey, why don't you do the exact same thing that my client just did? Call these 4 clinics, see how they answer the phone, and from there you can assess yourself where you are compared to where they are, right? Dude, I didn't tell you about it because I want to see your shock value. It was unreal, right? So we call one place, and mind you, these people were also in the same HSS network as us. So we want to see if they're doing something better than us, right? Because we're new to the game. Um, the first call they did was a big clinic with multiple locations. The lady said hi. She did not ask for the name of the person she was talking to. The first thing she asked is, "What's your insurance?" And then, "Why are you calling me?" And then she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have my insurance card right now. Do I need that?" She was like, "Yeah." And then it's just silent. And then she goes, "Should I call back?" And the lady on the line just said, "Yeah, call back when you have your insurance." Boom. No first name, no last name. Why you're calling? Where's your contact information? Email, nothing. Right? So I was like, all right, that might be a runoff. Call the next one. The next one, say hello, ask for the name. Then the next 8 questions was all about insurance. What insurance do you have? What's your ID number? Right? All of that stuff. And then she said, like, "I don't have my card right now, but I've been dealing with this, and that." They're like, "Okay, call back when you have your insurance." So that's 2, right? The third one we called, they didn't pick up. It rang 5 times. Nothing. They didn't pick up. Nothing at all. So we lost a lead right then and there. So within those 3 is I went and I met with her and I say, "How do you feel?" She was like, "I feel like I'm doing a great job." Right? Because the bar, dude, the bar is so low, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, when you guys are listening to this, is that first impressions is everything, right? The fact that I take it as a privilege that people are actually calling us. I don't take any phone call for granted. And the phone call is a first opportunity to impress someone, to get to know them, right? To set the standard apart, right? It's kind of like if you have a first date. Before a first date, you need to call. Again, you and I grew up in an era where you have to call a girl's house, right? Talk to the parents, introduce yourself, win the parents over, so that way the parents were like the gatekeeper, right? And then you can then talk to the girl, and then you know that as you're talking to the girl, they'll listen to your phone call on the other line anyways, so you can't say anything crazy. Yep. So I'm like, okay, based on the intake, if you guys want to win at this game, all you have to do is say, "Hey, before we get into anything, can I please have your name? What's your phone number before we get disconnected?"
Yep.
Awesome. And then you say, "Okay, what's going on? How long have you been dealing with this for? What have you tried? What didn't work? What's your goal? Why is this important to you?" Right? If you just do those things, that's just set the bar high already. Lastly, go ahead.
I say it's almost like they're going right from that swipe right, trying to jump into bed with you when there is no engagement, there's no connection. They've made it, by answering those calls like that, they've made it all about themselves and not the person actually calling. And as a business owner, if you want to set yourself apart, you want to create that feeling of, hey, you matter, you belong. And so that's where, like you say, asking those questions, engaging them. Why are you calling? What problems are you dealing with? What have you tried in the past? What are you trying to accomplish? All those things, it flips the narrative and it makes it about the patient, or makes it about the person calling. And it creates that feeling of, okay, these guys really care about me. They're not just trying to get my insurance. Like, they want to actually help me solve the problems. And it's such an easy shift to make. Like, I'm not surprised to hear that those companies were like that, but it's such an easy shift to make that if you can you're immediately going to set yourself apart anytime someone calls your clinic.
Yeah. And here's the best part, right? I asked my team directly, like, "Hey, after you make those calls, if you were me and you have to pay someone to answer the phone out of your pocket, and they answer the call like that, how would you feel?" They're like, "I'll be upset," right? So I know for a fact there are friends of mine who have their own clinics that these things go unnoticed, right? What's great about the system that you and I set up is that we have call recording. So I can always, again, and I review that game tape all the time, right? We go over the good phone call that went well, and we go over the bad phone calls that didn't go well. And then from there, as a CEO, I get to coach my team based on the action that they take. Say, "Hey, why do you say this next time? Hey, if you hear this objection, rather than keep pursuing more, take a couple step back and say, okay, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that." Right? Don't rush into it, right? So this is why people, again, The one thing we say here, especially when it comes to the PTN, and we tell our patients, like, what we do really well here is we do the little things uncommonly well.
Yeah.
Right? That's going back to that 100 golden BBs, no silver bullets.
Yep.
Right? So
yeah, it's like you got to have. I think first of all, again, get a little more tactical. You've got a script, so it's following that script and making sure that that script is very prospect or patient centric, not your clinic centric. But then also having accountability to those people that are managing those scripts via the call recordings, via listening into those calls and listening how is it going. But then also from listening to those calls and holding that person accountable, you can also get more intel and more data to be able to improve upcoming calls. You can adjust your script as needed. You can add more questions. You can add follow-up questions. You can, add places where you need to maybe dig deeper or add a little insight, whatever the case may be. But it's just having a process that recognizes the importance of that first contact that you have and doing everything you can to put in appropriate actions and steps and accountability to make sure that first call, that you don't have to sit there and babysit every call, but that your team is doing the things that need to happen in order to help the clinic grow.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the mistake I made in the past, I used to have I mentioned this before, I used to have a virtual admin, right, who works remotely. She would answer the phone call and all of that stuff. And I literally create a script that she needs to follow. And I say, hey, please follow the script. It's there to help guide you through all this difficult conversation. And immediately is I got to push back, right? I push back like, oh, I'm going to sound robotic. It's not going to sound real authentic. Oh, that's not how I work. I know what I'm doing. So in hindsight, when I hear something like that, know what I know now, like when people get defensive, when you're trying to help them make their life a lot easier, and you're trying to set standard for your business because your name is on it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? They're going to get paid no matter what, whether you get leads in or not, right? So if you're dealing with that right now, and I know people are listening to be like, oh, snap, like I have someone like that, because we all did, right?
Yep.
So that's a person
whether it's a VA or whether it's someone on site
in person, exactly,
that you actually see, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and we didn't have call recording back then, so I couldn't coach. I didn't know what things were being said, right? Looking back now, I'm like, man, that was just a mistake on my end. I was just, not only that I was paying people not to do the job I asked them to do, I was also paying them to lose relationships of people who otherwise could have been in the clinic that I can help.
Yeah.
Right? And that's hurt me a lot, because those are relationships that could turn into something where we can actually help more family, more household, right? And get the name of the clinic out even more, right? So if someone's defensive, that's a red flag for me. And if someone say, oh, you're just micromanaging, that's not really, because people who wants to learn want to be held accountable. They want to have high standard, right? If you look at it, look, the NBA playoffs is right now, right? If you look at teams that are doing really well, right? Knicks are doing well. They changed the culture. Like Lakers are not doing well because LeBron or the GM is running the show.
Like, the refs helped in both of those games. Just saying.
I'm just saying, right? But you can see the shift at the end, because no one's going to keep LeBron accountable because he's LeBron. Because LeBron is not being held accountable. Why should other player listen to that coach?
Yeah.
Right? That's just being above. Like, LeBron's about LeBron getting the stat and all of this stuff. He's not about, winning another ring. The only way he's going to get another ring is if they put another bubble in there and they just give him a participation trophy. Say whatever you want. But at the end of the day, people who want to win, they want to have a script. They want to have a path.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to deviate from the script, that's fine. But as long as you follow the main thing, awesome. So that's a
framework. To me, I think of a script. A script is basically just a framework of how you're going to approach and how you're going to handle a call. And there's ways you can, personality, the way you talk to people, whatever, you can deviate to a certain extent, but there are certain milestones and certain guardrails in place for a reason. And if someone is pushing back, like you say, like at the end of the day, it's your name on the door. It's your brand that you're building. And if someone isn't willing to be a part of that, there are plenty of opportunities that are out there for them to go and help another company tarnish their brand or not do things, do things the way that they want to do that don't meet your standard.
Exactly. My biggest takeaway from doing that experiment with my team, I asked them, hey, did that phone call put a smile on your face if you were a patient in pain? Was it yes or no? right? And the answer is no for all the places that we call. Now I flip it back to them like, now when someone calls us, do you know what you need to do to make sure that the person, when they hang up the phone, they feel great, they have more clarity, they have more certainty, and they know that at least their problem being heard. And if we did all of that, do you think there's a high chance that they're going to leave feeling better about their situation? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, great.
Yeah, absolutely. It all goes back to having that clear understanding of the patient journey that we talk about. Like they're at point A, they want to get to point Z where they're out of pain or they're back to their sport, whatever the case may be, fully healthy. But there's decision points and there's milestones along that path. And our job is to help them navigate that path, not force them, but give them opportunities, help them feel engaged, empower them to be able to make those decisions and move through that journey themselves. And so, having that call, like you say, at the end of that call, if your person that's answering that phone feels like, they feel good about it because they've provided value, they've helped that person take that next step in that process, and that should be the goal along the entire journey is what can I provide? What value can I give? How can I engage this contact or this patient to help them make the decision on their own that we are the ones that can help? What value can I provide? What questions can I answer? What guidance can I give them that's going to help them take that next step to get to ultimately where they're trying to get, which is pain-free or back to playing, at a competitive level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as a clinician, right, I think we view value creation as what we get to do on the table, in the weight room floor and all of that stuff. But really value creation starts from the first point of contact.
Absolutely.
Is how to get connected with you, right? Talking about doing the little things uncommonly well, right? Talking about like staying consistent. That's the biggest thing, like email, right? I think that one of the biggest pushback that you and I have dealt with when we work with some of the people that we partner with is that consistency in writing emails, consistency in sending out your message once a week, making sure that they know who you are, what your company stand for, and how you can help them. Not only just them, but their potential friends and family, right? The way I look at email is that if you can carve out half an hour of your day to send out an email that will broadcast to your entire list, whether it's 10 to 3,000, that's a good high leverage task, right? And we're talking about the identification staircase that we created on the podcast that we did. For you to leverage yourself as a true CEO, you need to be able to do those high leverage tasks, right? Let's say those tasks where I view every time I write an email is a $10,000 task because it's one thing that I get to do that I have massive leverage and I have the most amount of reach.
Yep.
And I get to be connected with the people who I can potentially help, right?
Yes.
So if you're not making time to write an email for half an hour, then you're looking for a silver bullet.
Yep.
Right.
You're stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies, so to speak.
Yep. Exactly. Or to go even deeper, you are being above the work, which is one of the red flags I always say in my company is that when someone's above the work, they're no longer gonna, if they see a trash on the ground and they don't want to pick that up, they're above the work. And therefore that's not a good culture fit. So we also have to don't let our ego get in the way, like, oh no, that's task is beneath me. Right? I think the role of the CEO, you need to say what task will move the needle the most. If right now, if I can write an email that will help me get more leads, get people in the door, get people to reactivate, right? That's the task that you need to be doing. Right?
Yeah, that's what, like you say, email is definitely one of those high value tasks. And to me, anything related to communicating with your audience, who you are, how you can help, your brand, like that's a high value task. And in email, sending consistent emails accomplishes a couple of things. Number one, like you say, you can provide value, you can engage, you can, strengthen it or, create that relationship that's going to allow you to provide that service and help deliver those results. But another thing too is to keep in mind, is our lives are like up and down. Like, we're focused on this one day and then the next day it's this, and, we're busy. We're not always focused on one specific thing. And so there might be a point where this prospect is very heavily interested in looking at this, but they get distracted. Maybe they've got, they got
Mm-hmm.
finals coming up, or, their kids have activities, whatever the case may be, they get distracted, but that doesn't mean that they've completely forgotten about it. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't continually put yourself in front of them, if you don't have if you don't create that top of mind awareness, when they come back around, yeah, they may think about that engagement that you had, but maybe they heard about another clinic from a friend, or they saw an advertisement, whatever the case may be. They're going to go check those out, and you may have lost that potential patient. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're in front of them consistently, if you're creating that top of mind awareness, and you don't give them a chance to forget about you, the chances of them coming back to you, if you're saying the right things, if you're doing it the right way, if you're providing value at every step of the way, you're going to be the one that they ultimately decide to work with. But you have to put in the work. You have to be consistent about communicating. And an email newsletter once a week, at least, is one of the easiest ways to do that. And like you say, 30 minutes, take 30 minutes and type out a message. It doesn't have to be some grand thesis. It doesn't have to be a breakdown of specific. It just needs to engage and provide value in some way, even if it's getting them to shift their mindset, or think about, physical therapy in a different way, or think about how they can approach their goals, how they can get back to where they want to go. Just providing that value on a consistent basis gives you that opportunity to provide value and to help that particular person whenever it is that they decide that they're ready to actually take action.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that we've been focusing on too is, again, engaging people on social media, like answering DMs or actually engaging in DMs, right? So when someone follows us on Instagram, the first thing we do is like, hey, thank you for following us. We're glad you're here, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's
huge.
so easy to do. And it's so often overlooked. Just when someone follows you, man, send them a message and just start to engage in a conversation. You're not trying to sell them anything at this point. You're just trying to understand who they are, what brought them there, because that gives you some intel and some insight is the type of content you should create. But it also opens that door to have a conversation about how you could potentially help.
Dude, and this is why what I love is how you help us set up the CRM that we use, right? The 4 CRM, where when someone follow us, right, we can DM them through our CRM right then and there. The issue that I have when I talk to friends who are doing okay in their business is that they don't leverage the tools that they have enough, right? They just view CRM as a fancy way to send email, but like you're missing the whole boat, right? Your CRM should be a tool to communicate with people. And that tool can be from phone call, from email, from DM, Facebook messaging, right? All of that. And
Instagram, Google Business Profile chats. Even what's like all those different messaging platforms. Absolutely.
yeah, so for us, by just taking those little actions, sending email, like connecting with people via DM, a message of bringing them here, like, dude, what's cool? I'm so proud of my team about this. Like, we actually like closed 2 leads on Instagram by just answering those questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That's how you do it. Where I've seen people where they sign up for like HubSpot, where they pay like $2,000 a month to just have it sit there. Like, oh yeah, you pay $2,000 just to send email. Like, you're not doing it enough. Right. Again, there's no silver bullet there. You got to do the little things, and the value creation has to do with how you communicate and nurturing people. Right. I look at value creation having to do with nurturing sequence. Right. How many touch points do you have to keep demonstrate that you have value? You hit the nail on the head when you say people have busy lives, right? And I see where someone who are a good therapist, they let the ego kind of take the beat in the driver, where they're like, oh, I'm so good that people should be lining up to work with me, right?
Yeah.
But no one knows about you. And to be honest, you can be really good, but if people don't feel connected with you, they're not going to come.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to charge appropriately for it, right? Because you haven't demonstrated as much value, right?
Yeah,
and
I think I've said this for a long time. One of the biggest myths that Hollywood has perpetuated, and there's a lot of them, but one of the biggest myths that Hollywood perpetuated is from the movie Field of Dreams. I love that movie. But the line, if you build it, they will come, does not apply to business. Like, just because you have a business, just because your doors are open and you provide a service, does not mean that people are automatically going to come.
Yep.
You have to create that awareness. You have to engage them. You have to provide value. You have to give them reasons to choose you. And again, it goes back to, what we were talking a few minutes ago about the phone call. Like, it starts from that very first interaction that you have, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a follow on social media. You have to capitalize on every single opportunity, every single eyeball or interaction that you get to engage that potential patient, show your value, demonstrate how you can help, and ideally systematically move them through that patient journey. So ultimately, they're walking out your door happy and healthy and ready to go on and live their lives. But that's not possible if you don't focus on those little things up front to engage that and interact with that potential patient to be able to create that relationship.
Exactly. So the best case study for this, right, is BlackBerry versus iPhone. Do you remember BlackBerry? We all had a BlackBerry. Anyone
I
who
did not, but I
you did not,
absolutely remember. Yeah,
dude,
I was
BlackBerry was
jealous of those that did, to be honest.
BlackBerry was a go-to phone for anyone who's in business who feels somewhat important, right? BBM was the best way to communicate. It was like the original blue text before the blue text, right? So for people who are younger, like BlackBerry was like the go-to phone that everyone needs to have, right? And I had one. And then as you look, no one has BlackBerry now. So BlackBerry is from outside looking in, they seem like they were very complacent in their marketing. They say, oh, we have such brand credibility. No way people are going to overtake us when it comes to this. So they let the ego, drive the business rather than market drive the business, right?
Yep.
So BlackBerry was like the go-to place. Next thing you know, Steve Jobs come out with an iPod, then an iPhone, right? And then they're like, oh no, they're not going to take market share on that. But what Apple did really well is that they engaged with the audience in front of them. They engage with the new generation because the market is always shifting, right? And they position themselves that the iPhone is the phone that you need to have, where you can have music, you can have all these things all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, we're not able to keep up with that. They also say, oh, by the way, when you have this iPhone, there's this thing that's going to be called an app store where you get to get all this application in here. So that way you don't need to have everything in there. You don't need to have your laptop. You don't need to have anything. It's just all in one place.
Yep.
BlackBerry, what do? They test it out. They say, oh, I'm not going to compete with that. We're too good. We have the highest market share. Now, there's no way. Fast forward right now, if you have a BlackBerry, no one knows what that is.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm looking at a case study. Apple did really well at merging sequence, right? And they do it subtly. They do it by saying, okay, hey, here's an iPod.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Hey, here's an iPod mini. Great. Hey, here's an iPod with a bigger gigabyte. Yeah. Oh, if you love our iPod, you're gonna love our iPhone because it's an iPod with a phone and this capability. So now it's a replacement vehicle for people who want more than just a phone, right? So they were able to see 10 years down the road what people needs and wants going to be there, and they actually speak it to existence. Where BlackBerry, they did not do that. So if you guys, again, I'm looking at big corporation, big hospital system as a BlackBerry market, where they're like, hey, what people always come to us, this and that. If you're listening to this and you're letting your ego driving the car and you're not nurturing the sequence, you're not communicating people, you're not lowering yourself from this mountaintop that you build up. Right? At the end of the day, you and I are just human beings. Our patient also human being. They want to be communicated as such, right? If you can get your ego aside and be able to communicate and build a relationship, nurture the sequence, that'll be a huge thing. And as part of our value creation and the nurture sequencing that we have is that each time you talk to someone, you need to provide value. And if you provide value enough time, then you have earned the right to have a call to action.
Yeah.
So that's one last thing I want to touch on. You can do all this value building. If you want to ask them, hey, let's take the next step forward. Why don't you schedule a call with us? Why don't you come in for a discovery visit so that actually we can sit face to face, you can see what we're about, then you have an opportunity to actually build a solid relationship, right?
Yeah.
All the people that you go ahead.
Yeah, you definitely want to and again, it's about helping them take that journey themselves. Like, you can't force them from one step to the next, but you can make it easy for them by providing tools or resources, calls to action that make an incremental step. Just like Apple went from the iPod to the iPod mini, then to the shuffle, then to the, like, just, they have, steps where you could take to slowly ascend up their product ladder. In this case, it's taking one step to the next to get to that point to where you can present that plan of care, you can provide treatment for them. You want to build that value, establish that relationship, establish your position as the one that can help, and then provide them with easy, simple steps they can take that are very low risk based on where they're at and where you're trying to get them. As opposed to, again, calling those clinics, they're immediately trying to get you into a plan of care when they don't even know who you are. They don't know the value you can provide. The only advantage they have is they probably have big advertising budgets, and they can spend a ton of money to get that visibility and get that credit, get in front of those potential patients. But as a smaller clinic, someone who's trying to get to that point, man, if you just, again, provide value up front and make it all about the patient and help them through that process, you're going to establish a relationship that's going to provide value, not just from them, but those relationships, those referrals, those reviews that they can provide. And that's really how you grow from that small business manager up to a clinic CEO, and then eventually owner, freedom entrepreneur, and wealth entrepreneur, all the way up that ladder.
Yeah, exactly. So what I love about what you and I created when it comes to our, growth partnership, right? We only want to work with people who are doing $500,000, right? And that's the bare minimum, because the $500,000 mark, that's where the Death Valley comes about. This is where you have such massive success in the beginning. You hit a really key milestone. You're making $500,000 gross revenue. And at this point, you start hiring people. And that's where you actually start losing the traction, because you start abdicating rather than delegating. You're still treating to generate income, but the income cannot come fast enough because you also have massive payroll. So our job as someone's coming on is like you and I do a deep dive. And the first thing we're going to implement is things that are going to work already. Right? It's not to get you to spend more money. It's actually get you to optimize the things you already have. And that's including making sure that your staff understand what they're doing, their role, they're following the script, there's accountability, there's scorecards, and there's optimization, whether when it comes to pricing, customer lifetime value, right? That's why our offer is absolutely crazy, because we offer to double your investment within 90 days, right? But really, our goal is to be a long-term partnership to get you to add that $100,000 into a top line, right? That's always our goal, because we want people to help. We want to really help build real businesses where people can actually feel prideful in what they do and living the life that they want, right? In the most fulfilling way. So again, if you're listening to this, like, you don't have to keep throwing money into ads agency and stuff, because if your first phone call is not good, what's going to happen when someone calls, right? If you're spending $3,000 a month on Google Ads, you're getting leads, but how many of them are you closing? If you're closing them, how long are they staying with you, right? And the last thing is, what are you tracking to make sure that's happening, right? For me, the biggest thing I'm obsessed with is how many touch points do we need to do? What value do we have to add in order to get people from inside the door, book our plan of care for 24 visits, so that way we can help them to achieve their long-term goal, not just a short-term goal.
Yeah, talking about kind of how we're helping clinics, it really comes down to most of the options out there are a single solution. They're providing a silver bullet. We'll generate X number of leads in so many days. I mean, that's great, but that's only one part of the puzzle. We started talking about doing the little things. What about all the little things? What about the way that your staff answers the phone? What about the way that you communicate with your contact database over time? What about those scripts that people are using? What about the accountability in terms of who's doing what, when they're doing it, what money's being spent, what results are being generated? It's like there's all these things that go into building a successful clinic, and you can't do that by solving only one problem. Like, you have to look at it from a holistic perspective, because it all plays together. If you have those basics in place, if you have those key fundamental elements already established, you have those scripts, you have those processes, you have those call to actions, you have those tools, you have those offers, you have the pricing. Then when you run ads, they're that much more effective, because you have the back end system, you have the back end process, your team is prepared, they have the tools that they need to be able to effectively communicate with those leads and convert those leads from cold, don't know who you are from Adam's house cat to loving you guys and can't wait to work with you. But that's not possible if you don't do the work up front to create that foundation, put the systems, the processes, the tools, and the people in the right places to make sure that you can maximize the effectiveness of whatever it is you're doing to grow your business.
Yeah, and I'm sure every clinician can attest to this because they get this email where like, hey, Natty, can you handle 30 new leads this week? I'm like, dude, like what's the quality of the leads? What do you know about my business? How do you know about my ideal customer?
Yeah.
Right. So again, that's really enticing when you're not a seasoned business owner and you want to just get that silver bullet by just throwing money in there, right? But if you want to build something that's long lasting, that actually have meaning, have high impact, and you want to scale, those strategies will only work to get you up to, 500,000, right? It's not going to go above beyond that because at that point you're going to have all these leads. And what's the best thing for me when we do this partnership thing with people is I get to talk to business owner of how to have hard conversation, of how to let someone go, of how to say, hey man, it's time. That journey has ended. Here's how you do it. And here's how you keep raising the bar, keep raising the standard, and be unapologetic about it. Because I think people want to build successful business, but they do not want to lose relationship along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those relationships, especially with like, oh, these are my day one person. This is my first hire. Dude.
Ride or dies, my OGs.
Yeah, that's like me saying like, oh yeah, this is my friend from middle school who's now smoking weed every day, and yeah, he's gonna be a best man in my wedding. Like that doesn't work. Like that's not gonna go, right? Yeah. So beyond the strategy, the know-hows, and all of that stuff, what excites me the most when I get to do these things is having those conversations because I've been there. I know what it's like to have a hard conversation with someone. I know what it's like when I need to let someone go. And where on a personal end, I don't want to end that relationship, but I know for me to ascend to the next level, to have more impact, and to actually make sure that my team feel fulfilled and happy, because people want to work with winners.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you need to have those kind of conversations. So, if you're dreading that kind of conversation, that's a conversation you need to have. Right. That book, Ryan Holiday, Obstacles the Way. That's exactly what it is that before you have to make any hard decision, everything in your head say, run away from it. Don't do it. But that's a conversation you need to have the most, especially when it comes to accountability. Because what happened is that you have this effect where you're stressed out at work, but because you're so fearful of having that conversation, you end up bringing that stress home. And then people who are close to you in proximity, you then lash out at them.
Yeah.
Right. It's like coming home because someone pissed you off, and now you're gonna kick your dog.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love my dog. I don't want to do that.
That's what I love about what we're doing here is, yes, to an extent we are a marketing agency, but it goes beyond that because business is so much more than just marketing. Like marketing, sales, getting leads. Again, that's just one part of the equation. But with your experience and having built a 7-figure clinic and being in the trenches and knowing all of the little ins and the outs and the pitfalls that people are going to encounter, like you have this foresight that you can provide insight to hiring the right people, but letting those people go when you realize they're not a good fit. And all those little things that go into it that stress out a business owner as you're trying to ascend up that staircase.
Yeah, it's not just a marketing agency, dude. We're like a transformation and growth agency.
Yes.
Right. That's what we do. We want to help transform people that we get to work with, because I don't want to work with people who I don't like talking to.
Yeah.
Right. That's really like my rule number one is I want to just keep having good high level conversation. That's why we do all these things. So again, from a personal end, right? If you look at your friend group and your friend, all they can talk about, like, oh, remember when we used to get blacked out drunk when we were in this trip? Like, that's not a good conversation to have, right? If you're like, I'm turning 36 this year, like, I don't want to have those kind of conversation. I want to have a less of a high school reunion kind of conversation and more about like, hey, what are we doing about it today? And what's our future going to look like? Because That's what you need to do to keep going. We don't know how much time we have here, and again, it's all changed my perspective once I lost my dad, because the time that we have is so short and things happen so fast, and because of that, we can't wait just to take action. We have to do the right thing every single day, and then do the next right thing the next day.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
I think just to roll back in, once you realize that the bar is so low, there's a place in the market for you. You just have to do the little things uncommonly well, and you have to stay consistent by just doing the emails, the DMs, offering value, offering videos, having a call to action where people can actually feel comfortable taking you up on that offer, on that phone call. If they say no, it's also okay, because you haven't demonstrated how much or how you can help them. You haven't earned that trust yet. So all you have to do is just keep shipping away. But you have to do that by creating a system behind it. Because if you're just doing it yourself and you're paying someone that's supposed to be doing it for you, then there's no need to hire that person. You might as well just do everything yourself. Because you get to pocket the money. But for you to ascend up that staircase that we build out, and you want to be a true, freedom entrepreneur, well builder, you're going to need to learn how to leverage. And the greatest leverage is having the system with the right people to do it. And then you keep growing yourself as a business owner, and then you grow your team to follow the same path you have set for them.
Yep. Yeah. So, Dan Martell?
Yes. Oh, My Back Time. Great book.
So he talks about, and he was quoting, so I don't remember who it was, but he says there's 4 key points of leverage. And as you think about extending that staircase, you want to get really good and almost master these 4 points of leverage. The first one is capital, which is money.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is code. So you have software, you have technology, things that can, automations, AI, et cetera, et cetera. The next one is content. And that's just not social media content. It's not just videos like what we're doing here, but it's also playbooks or scripts, standard operating procedures that you have that provide guidance and direction for your team. And then the last one is connections. So if you can learn how to leverage those, if you can learn how to master those 4 key points of leverage, like, you're going to be in a really good position. But you have to understand where you're at in that staircase, and what do I need to do to get to that next point of that staircase, and then look at those 4 key points of leverage and figure out, okay, what skills do I need to develop, or what connections do I need to create so that I can ascend that staircase to get to that next point. And so it's just, again, it goes back to that staircase and having that right mindset of understanding where you're at and what do I need to do to get to that next level. And those 4 key points of leverage, are the areas where you should be looking to gain that mastery, to gain those skills so that you can systematically and consistently move up that staircase.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I think Naval Ratnakhan also say very similar things.
And it's probably Naval where Dan got it from. Yeah.
Yeah. Naval is great. So again, if you guys want to, again, build real growth, build real business, and actually have true freedom and learn how to use leverage, obviously, like, we're here to get connected. We really want to partner with you, and then just help you ascend to the next level and have those hard conversations, because we've all been there. So, all right, I want to sum it up. Basically, make sure you call your competitors, see what they're doing, do the opposite, because that's how you win already. And then from there, just think about doing the little things that I would say, like, pick 2 to 3 tasks that you have to do every single week. For me, email, right? Creating new content, especially food reports, all of that stuff. Creating, like, DM nurturing sequence. And then at the end of the day, coaching your team to be comfortable of having that call to action. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned this past week. And, I think by just doing those things, you will absolutely blow up your business, because you're just showing up in different ways than other people are showing up, right? Like, it's prom season is around the corner, so everyone's talking about, like, how people are showing up to prom, right? Whether you're showing a limo and all of this stuff, right? We have a bunch of high-level athletes where they love just showing up in, like, I have some athletes show up in a Ferrari sometime, right? How do you show up? Absolutely set a statement, right? So you want to show up the right way. You want to show up where people will remember you, and you anchor that experience point. Wherever they call the next clinic, it's just never the same.
That's one thing I love to talk about is setting that criteria. You set the bar for the marketplace. And anytime they compare you or talk to someone else, like hopefully they're comparing them to you because you've helped them understand where the bar should be, what the criteria should be to find the right service provider.
Yep, exactly. So, all right, I think this is good, great episode, honestly. So, again, I'm gonna put the link in the show notes. If you guys want to schedule a call, hop on a call with Chestin and I. We'd love to connect with you. Let's see if there's a potential where we can help, your business grow. And then, if anything, reach out on our social media, and then we'll catch you guys on the next episode.